about 7 years, 8 years back, I used to head the Public Diplomacy Division of Ministry of External Affairs. And on 8th of July, 2010, we put out the first tweet from any government of India official account. And that sort of got inscribed into a little bit of history. From there on, the Ministry of External Affairs today is ranked #1 in Asia for use of social media. We do every month about 23 million hits on our Facebook interactions on Facebook and about 25 million on Twitter. We now have 183 diplomatic missions around the world on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and so on. So what are we trying to do with this from a government perspective in terms of what we see as our responsibility? One, at a very basic level, is creating a narrative of Indian soft power, putting out good stuff about India. Second is engaging with communities around the world, with Indian diaspora, but also with mainstream communities around the world through our diplomatic missions. The third is, can we help in ourselves contributing to the narrative, which is usually built by the media, which means that if the Prime Minister is in a meeting with President Trump or President Putin, and our spokesperson is sitting in that meeting, then he has the option or the opportunity to be the first person to put out a perspective on what happened in that meeting, our view of it, on the spokesperson's @MEA India Twitter account. So in a sense, government then becomes part of the breaking news cycle. The fourth, where we, I think, have been particularly effective, is in reaching out in times of crisis or humanitarian situations, whether in Yemen or in Gaddafi or after the earthquake in Nepal and so on. And you know what it's done is enable us to go beyond our usual range of contacts and reach out to communities that desperately needed help, had no way of connecting with us. And as a result, today the Ministry of External Affairs, of all, I think, government departments in India, is seen as an entity that is responsive to citizen concerns. And that really has changed the paradigm for us. I must say that for me, having a Twitter handle, what it means is that you are now a 24/7 diplomat on duty. The medium doesn't recognize time zones and it doesn't recognize weekends. And you are expected to be on call and responsive no matter when or where. For help are almost invariably answered. Thanks to the very, very proactive position of our Minister for External Affairs on this, who has 10 million followers on Twitter. We are held accountable for responding to these pleas for help. There is a lot of frivolous stuff that goes on. Sometimes there's random accusatory stuff that goes on. There's no dearth of trolls, even when our jobs are concerned.
Sure.
My own position has been, you don't like something, ignore it, but don't block. Let the person vent his or her views anyway. I don't think we are in the business of denying people the platform, nor would that work. The only way to do that would be to stay away from the platform ourselves. But I guess let me go back in a few years and give a small story on first-hand experience. When we started social media in the Ministry of External Affairs, a lot of my colleagues took it as something completely sort of trivializing foreign policy and trivializing the work of the Ministry of External Affairs, which was seen much more highbrow. And then you had the crisis in Libya in 2011, post-Gaddafi, and there were 17,000 Indians scattered all over Libya. We started sending out flights initially to Tripoli to evacuate Indian nationals and then to Benghazi. And throughout this period, there was one person that I thought was annoying who would keep tweeting, "This is just a PR exercise. You guys don't really care about people who really need help." And I tweeted back to him, this is somebody in Chennai, "Is there an issue? And if there is, email me, because this can't be resolved in 140 characters. And he did. And he said, "You're not doing anything about the people in Misrata." And so I spoke with our ambassador in Libya, and she said, "Misrata, the port is closed. It's too unsafe. We can't get there." Now this guy that I don't know in Chennai is telling me that yes, the port is closed. His father works in Misrata in the Libya Iron and Steel Company. There are 200 other Indians stranded in Misrata's area. But the plant has its own jetty. Man. So what does that allow me to do? Get our people to hire a ferry out of Malta and evacuate 195 Indians out of Misrata jetty through a chain of communication where the players involved don't really know each other. So to us, the kind of response that we got after that just validated that, as Suhail was saying, this is a medium, it's a channel, it's for you to use it as effectively as possible. And I guess for governments, on your responsibility thing, the key is credibility. You got to build your credibility over a period of time through your own actions, through what you put out. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, you lose that credibility, except for those who would follow you anyway, regardless of what you say. Coming back to the subject of responsibility, and I think we've spoken about government's responsibility and corporate and private sector responsibility. There's also this element about individual responsibility. And I think much too often we are intellectually lazy in the way we forward things, in the way we share things, without even questioning the authenticity or the bona fides or the biases of those informations that we are merrily forwarding to everybody that we know. I had one accidental forward, and a couple of my learned friends came back to me like a ton of bricks, saying that we expect better behavior from you. Don't you know that these are the antecedents of this particular organization whose post you forwarded? And I said, Mea culpa, yes, absolutely. And it's something that I think all of us can practice, to know the sources a little bit better, to know the biases a little bit better. And don't give up questioning. Just because it's out there doesn't mean it's true.